Find your own voice, lead from within. With me today is Shireen Groove. Shireen, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi, thank you, Namsa. It's so nice to be here. Hi, everybody, wherever you are in the world. I'm Sharon Lovegrove, and I work with professional women who are stressed, overwhelmed, and depleted, but especially women that are professional women, because they're constantly trying to be perfect. And I help them to confidently reclaim back control, reset their negative mindset, and recommit to living joyously as their perfect, imperfect self. So, yeah, today is probably my topic, which is really about self advocacy. And many people may not be aware, but one of my pet things is all about how do we take care of ourselves? How do we advocate for ourselves, particularly, we know that self advocacy is anybody that has vulnerable people, but often we land in positions where we are vulnerable, right? And then we don't advocate for ourselves very wisely. And so I really felt this was quite an interesting topic, because it's not just that we can normally manage, but it's when we come to those moments where we feel vulnerable that we then don't stand for ourselves in a way that's powerful and purposeful. And then we end up being doubt ourselves, and we make decisions that perhaps are not the very best kind of decisions. And where I really was very aware of this is when I first used to work as a nurse. How often what would happen is people would come into hospital and then they just give up all responsibility, right? And it's almost like you go into hospital and then other people take charge. So now the doctors know better what to do. So I'll do what you do. But so badly that people don't even know what medication they are on. And they just go, well, I'm just going to take these tablets, but they never even ask really what these tablets do. So, and one of the things that's my pet thing is really, working with pregnant women. One of the biggest things is this very big situation that happens between them and medical staff, where they go into a situation where they would be normally very powerful women, and they end up almost in that space of being a child. And so my real desire is to help people find a way that they can, even in these difficult circumstances, really be the best advocate for themselves. And what does that entail for us to do?
Thank you so much, Shireen. I love that today's topic is like you've explained that sometimes we give up our own basically our own rights and our own independent when we go to the hospital or when we do things. We give up, and it is important, like to be your best advocate and stay committed to the decisions you make in life, and also understanding your needs, because what you just explained, basically, just because someone is in hospital, it doesn't mean that they have to forget about their values, they have to forget about their beliefs, they have to forget about their needs. They need to understand themselves and put themselves first and basically communicate to their needs, and having the abilities to make decisions and be the person that you are meant to be. uh, so I love what you do as well, because that's what you help women become that. And I really, really love that. It's like sometimes I think it is my father-in-law is in a hospital, and he is someone, he had a stroke, but is someone that he loves to do things. He loves to get out. He loves to go for walks and stuff. So everyone is just panicking. The nurses have been ringing the children, saying we can't allow him to go out and stuff. But when I visited the hospital, he's in a rehabilitation now. The hospital is actually, there's a place outside where you can go for walks and stuff.
Mm.
And I was like, why are they treating him like a child? If he wants to go for walks, he
Yeah.
can actually go for walks, because a Royal Box, he was there for 2 weeks. They were letting him basically, though he had a stroke, so he was pushing himself to get out of bed, and then
Yeah.
for a few days, like 1 week, they were not allowing him to go out, and then in the second week they were allowing him to go out. He was like going out all the time around the hospital. They were letting him go. And I think what you're saying is right, that sometimes we have to learn to communicate our wants. And I even said to his son, I think they need to stop treating him like a child, although he has had a stroke. Let him heal properly by letting him be independent, because in his head, he still believes that he is okay. So let him go out. I'm sure there will be a nurse that can actually go out with him for 5 minutes. So I was like, maybe they need to let him out. By everyone else, he was like, he shouldn't be have like a child. He shouldn't be this. I was like, I'm not taking your side, guys. He needs to keep his independent. And also, if you are used to living your life,
Yeah.
it's important basically to, in order for you to improve your life, it's important to keep growing. It's important to
Mm.
even, it's like when you get a job, there are some people that will say, I don't have to make an effort because it's not my company, it's not this. But when you get to work, in order for you to be promoted in that job, you have to show people that I can make decisions. I am capable of becoming my best advocate and stay committed to what I said I will do, and just make decisions, and basically speak to the owners of the company and see if they can allow you to actually to make some improvement, because there are some people who are smart although they work
Yeah.
for other people. So I really, really admire your work, and I love this topic as well, Shireen, that every woman, that because sometimes when women start having kids, they lose hope, they lose that energy of who they should become. They think that that's it. Once I've had kids, uh, and that's it, and they just don't want more. So I'm glad that you work with women and women, and basically showing them that there could be more out of you. So thank you so much for that, Shireen. So what made you think of this topic anyway?
Yeah, I mean, I think what really got me and what really interests me is, you know, how do we make good decisions? Yeah. How do we know when to let someone else make a decision for us? And how do we know how to make them for ourselves? And what keeps always running in my mind when I think about this is what a client said to me when she started, almost like the fog started to lift for her. And she said, when my mind is working well, then I make good decisions. And it was a really profound statement that she made. So, Shelley Chopper, thank you for that. Now I'll give that to you, because it really stopped me in my tracks. And it is when our mind is working properly. So maybe people might not be aware, we hear it in different ways, but Dr. Canahan, he was the person that was the first psychologist to actually get a Nobel Prize. He's still alive. And he wrote something about how we frame questions or frame situations that either take us into system one and system two kind of thinking. And each of these systems have a different way of working. So we can think of it like, as what Ledoux used to talk about, is a fast and dirty route, which is our very quick signal system. And then there's this other system, which is much slower, more measured, but more truer very often. Yeah. So it's about how do we balance these two systems in a way that we then get the real truth that we need to have. So, for example, if say, for example, you go into hospital and something's going on, obviously somebody in authority or somebody that studied medicine or some, work or whatever, they know a bit more than what you do, right? And you're going with the problem. So the thing that we would have to be aware of is, okay, what do I need? What kind of questions do I need to ask so that I get answers in the way that I need to have answers that will allow me to feel safe, that will allow me to feel okay? It's really interesting. We always talk about the bottle half full and the bottle half empty, but actually that's how we make a lot of decisions. Cunningham showed that in actual fact, if we ask certain things, we make decisions on whether it's risk averse or risk taking. So it's almost like if we say, in the way we frame a question, I haven't actually got it here. I meant to get it and I didn't get it, but a couple of questions, which is really a way of framing a question. And very often, depending on how you are more likely to be risk. And if you're not, you'll be more risk averse, because what happens for us is that if we hear something that's going to really make us feel unsafe, we are going to become risk averse. So it's and we become risk averse because we feel the pain. We feel that sense of pain, and much worse than gains, which is really quite interesting. So to make a decision, we need to know how we're listening to the question. Is it making us feel safe or unsafe? And then we need to speak into the unsafety. So if, for example, when I had to have my ovary out, right? And I was still going through trying to get pregnant, I was in IVF cycle. And that was when they first found that I had the cyst and they found it was borderline. So I went, basically they said, you've got to have the ovary out. And I said to the doctor, well, okay. So when do you want that? And he was kind of saying, well, we can do it if we need to do this. And I didn't ask the question I wanted to ask at that moment in time. All of a sudden I started to panic and I thought, well, I've got to have this ovary out. What's that mean for my fertility? And I just went into a little bit of a spiral. But what happened was I had enough knowledge that when I got to the door, I turned around and he could see that I wasn't going to go out. I was like paralyzed, but I still stood there. And I said to him at the time, can I have IVF still? Can I still have children? If that's possible, if it is possible. And he said, absolutely. And then he told me that the cancer that I had wasn't hormonal. And that meant that I could have hormones to get more eggs, because I asked the question, right? And because often we don't want to ask the question, we end up not getting an answer. And we often go home and look at the internet, happy little internet, and we come up with a lot of wrong answers. And that's not helpful either. So it's really about how do we find a way that we can listen and ask good questions so that we can be able to make a decision. And that takes actually being very quiet and trusting ourselves that when we hear the answer we need, we'll stay with it so that when it clicks in, we've got it and we can let rest and we've known we've made a good decision.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shireen. I like the part where it's important, how important it is to ask the questions. And I asked the part where you had the courage to ask the daughter about the future. Basically, some people, like you say, they don't have that courage to ask the questions. They'll go on internet and start. Internet can be scary sometimes because
Mm,
there are some people who have had bad experiences, so they will be putting the answers based on the experience that they have had. Like you, your situation, there was no problem, and the doctor had to clarify with you that no, there isn't any problem. There are no reasons why you should not have kids, and that cleared everything. And it gave you peace as well, knowing where you were going, even if it wasn't the answer that you wanted to hear, but at least you had that courage to get the answer that you basically you didn't expect, because you might have expected the worst, but the doctor put that peace in your mind and say, listen, everything is gonna be okay, you are in good hands. And I like it also when you talk about the mind, that the mind is very, very important when we are making our own decisions. I think the other things that basically takes over is the fear. People fear that,
mm,
fear the unknown, that if I make a decision now, what is going to happen in the future? You cannot think about the future. You have to live in the present moment, because the choices that you make in that present moment, they will determine your future. So you have to make a decision without fear, and knowing that everything is going to be okay, whatever decision you make, that, and
mm,
look back and be proud, even if it's the wrong decisions, because the decisions that has to be made.
mm,
Sometimes we don't have control uh, about the future. We don't have control for tomorrow. There are no guarantees, but there are guarantees where you could have the courage to basically, like you were saying, frame your questions, ask your questions, and without fear, make a decision, and listen to your questions, evaluate your questions without fear, without doubting yourself. Some people, they doubt themselves. Basically,
mm,
they're like, I'm not enough to make these kind of decisions. And but you are enough. When you make a choice, you know that you are enough, and you know that there is someone higher than you. For me, basically, I make decisions trusting God that whatever
mm.
decisions that I make, I'm making the right decision, and knowing that if I'm making the wrong decisions, He would direct me to the right
Yeah.
directions. And if I have to ask questions, I do ask questions. I'm like you, Shireen. I ask questions. If there are questions that I want to ask, even with my mom and with my father, I ask questions. I don't want them to die like my father died. And basically, he just before he went, there were questions that I needed to ask when he was getting ill and stuff. I just asked him those questions because I needed peace. I didn't want to ask family members of stuff. So we go into the conversation of daughter, father and daughter, because we've always been very close. So I was like asking questions. And then my dad, there was a time where he says to me, how come you didn't know about this? And I was like, it was one of family secret that we knew. Me and my sister, we
Mm,
found out by accident. And we were very young, and the adults were talking, and me and my sister, we were like, we're not telling anyone. And my dad is like, just before he died, and I think I was 24, and he's like, did you know about this? I was like, yes, I knew. And I was like, how come you guys didn't tell me? I was like, if I would have told you, what would it would have done to you?
yeah.
It wasn't necessary for us to talk about it. And by the way, you told us, you and my grandma, you told us if we hear anything, we're not allowed to repeat it. So that's why we never repeated it. And that was your thing, that you raise us like that, that when you hear people talking, we're not allowed to repeat things. but then we had to get into the conversation now. So just to make sure that my father was happy, to make sure that
Yeah.
we didn't get affected by whatever the family were talking about, and we were like, we were okay. We know you always tell us everything, so we're okay about it. So it's those things that you need to learn, like you were saying, make decisions. For me, basically, I make decisions, and when I make decisions, even if I'm scared, I make them anyway, because I know that sometimes being a leader or being an advocate
Mm.
of my life and staying committed to myself and staying committed to the things that I said I will do, I
Yeah.
have to ask questions, I have to do
Yeah.
things, and I have to basically know my values, I have to know my beliefs, and basically and also ask myself with the things that are important to me, and my needs as well, why
Mhm.
am I making these decisions, and basically understanding that whole thing of psychology is very, 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 very important, because some people, when they are making decisions, they put other people's needs first. You've worked
Yeah.
with clients, you know how it works, where
Mm.
clients will come and tell you, this is what I'm going through, and you're like, why haven't you done this? And they're like, because I don't want to upset anyone and I don't want to do this. And then you start basically finding out what's the secret behind that fear of being scared of communicating with other people, because at the end of the
Mm.
day, I've listened to one of the pastors, and he was like, if you want people to affirm your destination, your everything in life, you're gonna be waiting for a very, very long time, because he was like, no one agrees to nobody. He was like, we live in a crazy world, no one agrees with anyone, so you might as well
Yeah.
ask questions, make decisions, and get on with it. If you make mistakes, you basically you have to face the consequences. For me, that's how I
Yeah.
see life, that if I make a decision, I am ready to face the consequences of that decisions. And when I come live here, I basically know that there could be some people that may agree with what I'm saying. There could be people that may not agree. So
Yeah.
I'm facing the consequences of believing my message and believing, having that courage to become
Mm.
the person that I want to become. Over to you, Shireen.
Yes, I mean, you made some really valuable points there. And, one of the key ones is about self-leadership. Yeah. And in order to lead others, we must know how to lead ourselves first. And leading ourselves means we got to know, as you said, our own values, our beliefs, our reasons for why. I do this because of this. I've thought about it. I've had experience. I've come to a decision on this matter. So therefore, these are my reasons. And that takes you into a place of, okay, there are a lot of other reasons I could have done this, but this is the reason, because I'm giving clarity to the decision I'm making, which means that in the aftermath, you can still be okay with the decision you've made. Now, I don't believe that any decision's a bad one, because you know, they're all about learning, yeah, in some level or other. And really, where it becomes a bad decision is where we don't learn, where we don't come back to it and go, oh, okay, next time I'll do this. So when we don't do that, we don't show our own self leadership for ourselves, and we don't help ourselves for the next event. So yeah, there was that self leadership, and there was also something else, and I didn't write it down. But anyway, what I saw and what you said, we talked about how one was that you really needed to know yourself, and as you said, coming on, and people do have different points of view, and they are. But you come into the space where you say, well, it doesn't matter what my point of view is. I will respect yours, whatever your view is. And in that way, you show leadership. You show a way forward for that person to be able to speak, but also showing them another way of how they can be inclusive, or you are inclusive. So it does give a balance, irrespective of whatever you come on. So those are the lovely things that then show up when you have that courage to come in. And I think what gives us courage is the idea that we have developed right thinking. We have developed, and we know what it is that we're standing for, right? It's much easier to be courageous when you know you, right? Because even scary things, if you know you, you will withstand whatever else comes. So then the question which came to me while you were talking was, we talked about trust. So why do people doubt themselves? That's the question that sort of jumps up. So what goes on? We make a decision and then we doubt ourselves. If of course we want to know everything's going to go the way that we would like it to go. But if you have spent time reasoning, really looking and exploring and coming to what feels right for you, then you will have a strong connection with the somatosensories that you have. And you'll know which ones are about excitement and which ones are about fear. And very often we confuse them. We confuse excitement with fear. And what often happens is that stops us because we haven't gone, oh, actually, I'm really excited. Because we haven't paid enough attention to noticing the little differences of what our body is telling us. So when we start to really learn how to listen to our body in a way that we can understand the signals it's giving us, it means that we are learning, well, this means this and this means that. So you start to trust you better, right? And of course, the more you do that, the more you get more confirmation from your body, because neurons that fire together wire together, which means you get stronger responses in that direction and weaker in the other. So, for most, you were talking a little bit about women that please. And one of the things which is really highly is so prevalent, really, because women have grown up in a context in believing that we need to be second. Yeah, that's just for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. That's what's happened with women. And now women have moved into a world where we realize we're just as smart and we are on par. But we're still carrying the reproductive fitness level, which is not as good as men. And so we have a higher parental investment in our children. And that means that we end up making damn sure that they are okay. And it means that we are more likely to put ourselves in the pleaser role. And of course, if you've grown up to learn that pleasing helps people, right? And you start to see that as your crown, like the tiara syndrome, then this is what happens. You then automatically default into that, and you actually enjoy when your kids come to you and make you feel good because you're a mother, yeah, and you're doing the motherly thing and caring for them. But what you're not doing is teaching them how to listen to their body and how to move for themselves. And that's really part and parcel of it. If you want to be a good advocate for your child, you need to know how to be a good advocate for yourself. Because you can't just go to a school and start moaning that, your child's been badly treated unfairly if you haven't got an ability inside to hold a lot of stuff so that you can support your child as well. Yeah. because we can't offset our responsibility. We need to collaborate and to get help from others, but we need to be in that self-leadership role where we can advocate for ourselves and advocate properly for our child. So we do it from a place of really looking at all the things that have been going on. We've collected data, and we've then gone with that evidence that allows everybody to see the facts. Then everybody can make a decision that becomes indisputable. So it becomes really useful to start to begin the process of really thinking about how do I build myself. And it's not a case of putting yourself first. It's about learning how to self-advocate for you. So it's about choosing. It's about saying, okay, right here. And I mean, we do this with our health. You know, if you're going to eat something, go and eat some chocolates or whatever. And I love chocolate, don't get me wrong. But if you go, right, am I going to have that chocolate? If you choose to say, you know what, I'm really standing for myself here, and I'm going to choose not to, you're less likely to have that chocolate because there's no push-pull, there's no force. Then when you say, oh, I'd love that chocolate, but I won't have it, right? I'm on diet. Don't bring it close by. But if you actually say, you know what, I'm choosing to advocate for myself. I'm choosing because of this reason. And you voice it, you name it. What happens is that it does a big shift in your brain. And it actually calms the brain down, because now it's not running into that thing of lack. Because when we want that chocolate, we feel lack, right? So we're now not running in lack. We're actually coming to the place where we're moving, and we're letting our future pull us. We're letting it pull us and take us into that better space. So this is how we can use self-advocacy in a way of every decision we make. We can say, you know, I advocate for myself here. I'm advocating for myself here. I'm going to stand here in this space, and I'm going to choose to do this work. And just by using those words, which is really beautiful, actually, I advocate for myself, takes away a lot of other stuff. And it just brings it to, I am your best, I'm your best self standing for you. And that, you know, that kind of really makes me happy. And that also is what will stop me when I see something and I go, do I need to do something or not? I'll go, no, I'm going to advocate for myself here. How do I do this in the best way that I can that will bring the better solution for everyone? But there's always a criteria. I will look at what is and name each of those things so that I'm really clear and I'm not emotionally bound in it. Once we name something, we give it an idea outside ourselves. And that means that we can actually work with it. So when it's inside and nebulous, it's really much harder. That's why journaling is so good. Yeah, because we literally putting things outside ourselves so that we can see them. Because while they're in our head, we can't. So the biggest way of self-advocating is to choose to create something in a particular way. So if I'm self-advocating, then I'm going, okay, there's me. And it's almost like I step into me, right? Because I'm advocating for me. It's a really strange dynamic. We sort of move into different positions, perceptual positions, and that has a profound effect on our body, and it makes things so much easier.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sharina. I like when you put an example for a child at school. I had a problem like during lockdown. My daughter, she went behind. My youngest one went behind in school, and for me, basically, when the teachers told me that she was behind, I had to say, listen, I'm not a teacher. So I can't teach my daughter at school like because of lockdown and stuff. But all I needed was to understand the way forward, actually, to help her catch up with the other kids at school in her class. And it was for me not to blame the teachers and just saying, listen, right, why don't you just write down what you think she's behind in school, like the work, and give her extra homework when she comes home. I'll be able to help her with however you want me to help her. And and then as I was helping her, also I realized that before the teacher, this one, okay, her teacher is really good, but before that teacher, the teacher that she was with, uh, she used to speak negative in front of her. But then I was like, okay, I think she needs confidence, and she needs proper confidence. So that's why I had to actually get her tutor, basically, to help her. And when her tutor came to assess, and she was like, she knows exactly what she's doing, the answers, she gives me the answers, but I just need to get her confidence to trust herself, because sometimes when you are being told that you are not enough,
Mm.
basically you lose that trust within. Like, what's the point of impressing them
Yeah.
if they are not going to appreciate what I do?
Yeah.
So that's when I realized with my daughter. But normally, when I do all these things, getting private tutors, it never works on my favor anyway, because she will end up now being the person saying, I'm bored now, I need more work. So I'm hoping that is not gonna go that far. So I had to take her to the college. There's a college down the road where we live. She's 7. So she goes every Saturday college for 40 minutes, and she just learns. She gets homework for 5 days and she loves it. So it's just me basically saying I'm going to stay committed to my children and making sure that my children, they get the best out of whatever they should get, so that she can understand. And also, I like it when you say have clarity when you make decisions. And I think it is very important. And you were saying also about making the wrong decisions. You don't see it as the wrong decisions, you see it as a learning. And I hope people are watching, taking notes as well, because when you make a decision, people always think that decision, it has to be something, a choice that you make, it has to be something that brings something good to you. And they always never realize that whatever choice that you make, you still have to give yourself credit for actually trying and saying, I'm going to make this choice. At the end of the day, it's all about what have we learned from that choice that we think is wrong. And it's all about learning and respecting respecting your decisions as well, and people around you. And I think it's very important what you mentioned, Shireen, and also how people wants to know the future. If we make a decision, we want to know if it's gonna
Yeah.
work for tomorrow. I'm afraid there are no guarantees when it comes to life. Life is a journey. It's a journey that we have to take each day as it comes. It's a journey where you have to embrace every choice that you make. It's a journey where you have to, even if you make a decision, like there's some people, you see them, you speak to them, they're like, I'm not dating no one. I've been disappointed in my life. I've been let
Mm.
down. And we're like, who hasn't let down?
Yeah.
Just basically get over it. It's like you go to work, people will let you down. You run your own business, people will come in and let you down. So everywhere, I think life is about us learning lessons each and every single day,
Yeah.
learning our weaknesses and learning our strength. Because sometimes you can enter, like you see, enter a relationship and everything is okay, and then later on things changes, people grow and the people change. So
Mm.
it's not that you've made the wrong decisions. And some
Yeah.
people, when they're being rejected, they believe that they've made the wrong decisions, but they haven't, because you don't know what the other person, their wounds, they're going through. Just because they've made a decisions to walk away from that relationship, it means they recognize that I need to work on myself, or I need to, or maybe this relationship is not giving me the things that
Yeah.
my expectations have not met. Yesterday we were talking about expectations. So
Yeah. Mm.
I agree with you when you say every decision is important to us, and is we learn from those decisions. I 100% agree with you. There are some decisions that I have made in my life when I look back, and I just look back and see. I don't see mistakes. I see what I've learned from those
Mm.
mistakes. I see that I've learned to speak up for myself. I've learned to break chains. I've learned to communicate with God. I've learned to trust, which is sometimes those were the things that sometimes I didn't have the courage to trust myself, and also to trust God as well, to say, you know what, I'm gonna make these decisions, and trusting God with whatever the
Mm.
path that I'm walking through. And I think it's very, very important what you're saying, that our mindset, we have to get rid of fear, and we have to make our mindset understand the power of the mind is very, very, very
Mm.
important. And like you made a decision to help women, to bring out the best from women, because when you, as a woman, you teach people to become their own advocate, basically is to say, you know what, you can be the person that you believe to be true about yourself. You can be that person. So that's what you're teaching women, basically,
Mm.
to believe in their path, whatever they are doing, to believe in themselves, and to believe in their marriages. There are some people who are in a marriage and they talk. Yeah, like, why are you in the marriage if you don't believe in the relationship? But then you find that is the confidence that they are lacking. And so, if anyone is watching, please get in touch with Shireen, and she can help you to become that person that you want to
Yeah.
become. Uh, Shireen, if anyone is watching right now, and like with your work and the experiences that you've gone through with the clients, and for me, basically, I make my own decisions, but I don't think I can. I know I am my advocate, but I don't think I have as much experience that you have, because for you, is something as a coach that you have focused on it, and
Mm.
you have worked, and you have created a strategy, proper strategy. If someone is watching right now, how can they basically take responsibilities and say, you know what, I'm going to commit to become an advocate and stay committed to my life as I promised to myself? How can they do that if they are not confident enough?
Mm.
So what advice can you give them?
Yeah. I think there's one thing is, I think you're gonna have to realize you're gonna go through a series of going almost like round and round and round and round and round. We often think we go and get our confidence and it'll be done. No, that never happens. That never happens. And the reason it doesn't happen is because you've spent a lot of time in your old patterns, right? When we spend so much time in our old patterns, it means that so much of our brain is wired that way. And that means that even if we do a temporary blips, that energy that it took to shift gets used up very quickly. So you've got to be repeating, 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 repeating. And actually, every mistake you make, if you notice it and you say, next time I'm doing this, that works even more profoundly than just doing something offhand, right? Because it's the mistake that wakes us up. It's the mistake that says, error, 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 error. It's not matching with our pattern. Hey, let's do this. Because when we're in the energy and it's easy and we haven't done the work to do the shifting, that's normally because we've kind of I like to think of it, we've jumped higher than our capacity, energetic capacity. And what's happened is we're here and we jump here instead of jumping here, where it's sustainable, right? We're here. And this is often what happens when you meet someone. You fall in love. And boy, oh boy, everything is wonderful, right? You are giving so much. You are sharing everything. You are, I mean, it's just amazing what you do when you fall in love. But the thing is, you still are coming to, you are at almost in that place. You are literally your best self. That is your real self there. But what happens is, in actual fact, is you've got all your old self that's still coming to the relationship. So you've got this best self that's jumping in forward and it's there and it's happy. And then 2 years, 18 months to 2 years down the line, if you haven't done any shift or change work or any kind of real moving out and expanding in ways you may not even understood, but if you haven't, what will happen is you'll start to feel dissatisfied. You'll come down out of that high, and we call it the honeymoon period. You come off the high and now reality sticks. Now all those patterns jump up because they haven't been dealt with, right? And now you find fault at everything they do. But the problem is, so is that person finding fault at everything that you do, because now they've come down too, right? And then what was love isn't love anymore. And yet, the real you are there. What you haven't learnt yet is how to be more of that real you, right? And that's the secret. If a relationship, if you change who you are, then the chances are the way you speak to the other person is going to change. And the chances are you will talk to them in ways that uplift them, that their energy starts to move up. Now, you're not there responsible for their energy. You're not there responsible for their change, but you are responsible for how you are. Yeah, we always are. In relationships, you're 50% responsible for your side of the deal, but you're 100% responsible for you. So that's the key. So what part of that isn't healed, of that 100%? So it's really important to kind of really look at that as a barometer for where you're at, and then look at the relationship, because the outside is just mirroring what is happening on the inside. So if you have someone that says to you in the morning, I'm so glad I'm with you after 26 years, you feel quite good, right? You know that you're going to probably stay with that person. I'm so glad I'm with you. I love seeing you in the morning. That is just these little things that then they build trust. They build, they not just build trust, but they also build commitment. And these are the things that when we do that for ourselves, every bit that we do builds commitment, and commitment builds trust, right? So you're having these two going backward and forward, until eventually you get enough neural growth in your brain and enough neural connection to your body and those areas that you actually start to move into that new being that you are. And then it's very different, because now all of a sudden you've got more on the side of your wise self, of that real self that was all in love and willing and open and wanting to give from a place of fullness, that you are now connecting to that. And the closer you get to her or him, depending on who's listening, the closer you get to whoever you are, who you really are, you see the result in the outside world. The outside world becomes the same. And you know, the interesting thing is that you don't see the negativity because we only look at what is really much in our filter. Yeah. So it's a really interesting thing. Yesterday I had a situation where some people didn't arrive on a call we're all committed to, and one of the other people that were there got really irate. She was really upset for me because this has happened a few times for me, and I just sat there and I thought, well, how come I'm not getting irate? How come I'm not really bothered? What's going on here? But I was also aware of the bigger pattern, and I was looking at, okay, I'm noticing that other people are shifting their groups. I notice that these things are happening. So what is the bit that's missing or not being addressed here that I'm going to have to address, literally? And so I took time just really looking at how come I wasn't in that space, how come the other person landed in that, and just really look at where we come from as beings. What have I learned recently? Where am I growing? Where's my growth edge? My growth edge is going to be to have that conversation with everybody, because I'm a little people pleaser too. I can default to that. But the thing is, once you realize that there's something bigger than you, more than you, and you can make it better, then you can step into that place. So I do think that when people come, the one thing is they're going to have to realize they're going to do a lot of revolutions, because if they don't go through each revolution and work with each revolution, what happens is they go too high and then they drop and then they feel the pain, right? So you want them to have little pain, not the stretch, rather than pain, the stretch. And so each little step that you take about how do you learn to talk to yourself in a different way. So it may just be that for a while you learn just to ask that question, how can I do this? And you ask everything that you do, even if making a cup of tea, how can I do this? Or how can I do it another way? Just to shake it up a little bit can be a really good way to start, because it brings you into this part of your brain, the forefront of your brain, where that part of you that's very wise kicks in, which is really interesting. And then the brain also starts to work, and it starts to look for solutions, because that's what its job is. Its job is to look for solutions. Otherwise, why would it be there? It's to help us, help us be who we need to be. Even if we were in the animal world, it's still there to help us to eat and find food. So it's there. That's its primary directive. We just expanded it into self-actualizing and be more. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shireen. Basically, your work helps people to become real, live in the real world, basically not living in a fantasy, and basically trusting, basically. So thank you so much, and making commitment to yourself. And that is amazing, and learning how to basically shift things. And that's I hope people who are watching will be watching this video later, they will get some value out of it. And if anyone wants to get in touch with Shireen, she's always on Facebook, Instagram. Are you on LinkedIn as well?
I am, yes. I'm a lot
Yeah, she is on LinkedIn as well. Please get in touch with her through Ngosi Talk Shows as well, and just find out about her work. And if you are a woman out there, you wonder why you don't feel you're basically you don't connect with your decisions and stuff. Maybe there might be some work that needs to be done, and obviously you have to be prepared to do the work. And just get in touch with her. And we are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And please join us and subscribe to our channel as well, family YouTube subscribers. And God bless. Live with grace. Sharina has to shoot.